for the war? And secondly, I mean, do you see good that came out of it, or is it all bad? I mean, was it a debacle because of the lack of weapons of mass destruction once you went in there? I mean, do you see good in it, or?
Well, I've spent a lot of the past 3 to 4 years going back to Iraq, to northern Iraq, to work with the Christian community there, the Assyrian Christian, the Chaldean Catholics, and others. And I think one of the great tragedies and the unintended consequences of this war has been the push to push Christians out of Iraq. There were 1.5 million Christians in Iraq before the war began in 2003. Today there are about 500,000, and this has been done by jihadi Muslims. Okay, this is a move by jihadi Muslims to make Iraq Christian free. It's a great tragedy. I've been working with the churches there, trying to help them, those who, for example, one of the books that I've written recently, St. Peter's Bones, it's about an Iraqi Christian interpreter who works for U.S. Special Forces, and you see how he's pursued by jihadi Muslims. I wanted readers to be able to understand from a personal point of view what it's like to be a Christian in a Muslim land when they're after you and they're burning your churches, they're firebombing your churches, and they're putting your names on the walls of mosques on hit lists.
But were you in favor of the United States going into Iraq based on the evidence of weapons of mass destruction?
I think just about every member of the United States Senate who saw the intelligence, people like Hillary Clinton, people like Joe Biden, voted in favor of the war. Based on the intelligence that they were presented from the U.S. intelligence community. You go on the intelligence you've got.
Is it all, I mean, is there any good that came out of the war, do you see?
Well, clearly Saddam Hussein is no longer a threat to the world. Clearly Iraq's weapons of mass destruction no longer exist. They're gone, and not only are they gone, but the factories that produce them. You know, I worked a lot in the 1980s. I wrote a book called The Death Lobby, How the West Armed Iraq. And I looked at Western companies that were supplying dual-use technology to Saddam Hussein and helped them to build those missile factories that some of the UN inspectors used. Ralph Akeas, who was the head of the UN Arms Inspectorate effort, he called my book The Bible, and he gave it to his inspectors to take in there after the first Gulf War in 1991, 1992. Saddam Hussein's weapons facilities were world-class. He had gone under the cover of the International Atomic Energy Agency. In one case, inspectors had gone into Iraq and literally walked past the building where the nuclear weapons work was being done, and they gave him a clean bill of health. That's the kind of thing that he is no longer doing. He's no longer a threat. We see that kind of threat today in Iran. The UN inspections have gotten better. They've gotten more intrusive. Luckily, we have a much better head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Yukio Amado, and they are doing very good work in Iran today. And it's because of the International Atomic Energy Agency that we know how close Iran is to a nuclear weapons capability.
How close is Iran to getting a nuclear?
We know, for example, that they have enough 20% uranium to make 4 or 5 bombs. We also know, because of the centrifuge process, if they decided to transform that material into weapons-grade material, it would take them about 6 to 8 weeks. So they are this close to having a deployable nuclear weapon.
What's the end game there? I mean, it sounds like Israel might not, obviously does not want them to have a nuclear capability, but what's the end game, do you see?
Well, you know, for the past 17 years, I've been working as the president of the Foundation for Democracy in Iran. It's Iran.org. We are a nonprofit that works with the pro-freedom movement inside Iran. I believe that we need to help the people of Iran to get rid of the regime. They hate the regime. You had 3 million people on the streets of Iran in June of 2009 crying out for American aid, and we did nothing. For 3 weeks, President Obama was silent. I think he should have spoken up, helped the people of Iran. We can change our policy. If I'm elected to Congress, I will work to change that policy so we help the people of Iran to get rid of the regime.
Who are your political heroes, living or dead, as you look back? Somebody who you look up to or respect a lot or might pattern yourself after if elected?
Well, I've become close friends over the years with Congressman Trent Franks of Arizona. I think he's a real hero to many people who care about national defense, who care about religious freedom. I think Frank Wolf in Virginia is somebody who also has really gone out in front to protect our freedoms in this country and protect religious freedom around the world. Roscoe Bartlett here in Maryland has, I think, also been quite a hero. He has brought to the attention of the Congress the threat of electromagnetic pulse, EMP weapons, or a massive solar flare, which could take down our power grid and essentially end the world as we know it today. I think that's a huge threat. It's something that we're not dealing with. and that I will certainly focus on in Congress as well.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but as you look back in your life, maybe where you were at a fork in the road, do you have people who helped you in your life that kind of stick out in your mind?
The Lord saved me in Beirut. I was taken hostage in 1982, held in an underground room for 3.5 weeks during the war in West Beirut. I was right in the middle of the bombing areas. I was saved by the Lord, and I knew I was saved for a purpose, and I think that purpose has been perhaps to prevent more outrageous wars that don't need to happen. We're headed for war with Iran. We do not need, we can actually prevent. I think we have to change our policies.
We're going to have to leave it there. Ken Timmerman, Republican nominee for Maryland's 8th Congressional District, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Charles Duffy. This is Political Pulse. We'll see you next week.
I'm home and I love it. I'm home where I belong. I'm home and I love it. I'm home where I belong.
It's always nice to come home. But these days, many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Making Home Affordable is a free program from the U.S. government that has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners like these. And we want to help you.
I'm home. I'm home. And I love it. I'm home. I'm home.
Find out now what your options are. Go to makinghomeaffordable.gov or call 1-888-995-HOPE. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home. I'm home where I belong.